All right, we are back with interrogatories. So I got number what are we on? Number 7 and 8. Okay, and we got 10, and I'm getting good response. I'm feeling a lot better. I might extend this to 20. Who knows? But we're slated for 10, the best 10. So like I said, I don't really, this are improv for me. I don't rehearse, but I take them. I like the snarky ones. I'm not like David Latt. Do I have an adversarial relationship with him? Not really. I don't think so. I don't think he's bold enough, and I don't think I've accomplished enough in the secular world to compete with above the law. So I respect him in there. I don't think it's adversarial at all. That wasn't one of the questions. That was just kind of me freelancing in there. That's not the right word. Improving. That's what happens when you improv. You just start talking off topic. So let's get back to topic. Okay. So this question made me laugh. Number 7 make me laugh. Number 8 makes me happy. Okay, I'll put it like that. So number 7 was, do you respect any criminal defense lawyer? And I just shy away because I want to maintain eye contact because I'm an honest guy. And when I just left eye, I was like, I can't lie to them. I have not found one honest one, and I have been actually having to utilize I don't say this, I try not to say this, but I do sometimes catch myself saying it, that just like personal injury gets like a ambulance chasing, the criminal defense get the bottom feeding kind of with the bankruptcy and divorce. They get that stigma because I in my recruiting world, I would recruit a lot more, I'm going to say it the nicest way I can, sophisticated practice groups. Intellectual property, mergers, acquisition, corporate attorney. These are your higher, sophisticated law. Private equity, these kinds of banking and finance, most of those, you're doing more transactional, you're doing more sophisticated work. So this question hits me close to home. They know this person must be like either somebody in my inner circle, or it could be just someone who follows me, because do I respect? So I have this book, and I have personal information, like anecdotal stuff of dealing with, high caliber law school criminal defense attorneys. I had a Wake Forest, a top 25 university, represent me. And that ended with an unsolicited full refund and an elongated process, and what I have been shown as 12 it added when this Jewish kid, I'll call him a punk because he's not following God at all, and he's acting irrational to try to protect the firm. So that's a Wake Forest personal situation. Now, when I tell you read a book, I was reading a book by Alan Dershowitz, who's taken some controversial clients, and he's got a Harvard law degree, okay? Just like, some of the best attorneys have Ivy League. He's a Harvard law, and he's a Jewish guy like me, he took some controversial things. I think I've seen him on Epstein's list, or he might have defended Epstein. I don't know. I've seen him connect. I don't respect him. And I can't respect someone who is controlled opposition like the Wake Forest. There's no way you can respect that when they ruin your life, and give you an unsolicited refund just to show liability. But that's ongoing. I don't want to talk about that. No, I do not respect any criminal defense lawyer. There's not one. I can be, if someone shows me one, like a profile, I could do a research project around it now that I'm doing a lot of mission work. Mostly mission work, yeah. Let's go next question. Let's go on from there. That kind of upsets me. Like, it's a beautiful day out in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm in the metro. I'm actually in South Carolina, Fort Mill. And I'm going to be going on vacation. So I want to get through these 10. So the next question was kind of open-ended one. This is why I like it. Just talk about your mission work. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. First of all, thank you for that question. I didn't pick the names in front of me. I just remember what they are. Like I said, I'm going to improv. And talking about my mission work makes me happy. Like I said, I got everything happens for a reason. God's design is perfect. Okay, God leads the steps of man. That doesn't mean not just you or me, but that blessing means that He kind of marionettes everybody together. Everybody's His people. He loves all His people. That doesn't mean that some will pass tests that are put before them. You know, God never puts something before you that you can't conquer, though. But people have free will, and this world would be exciting if it was robotic. So, back to my mission work. Sorry, I'm just kind of going off on personal attacks and, but everything happens for a reason. That's important. That takes a while, a maturity to understand. That takes highs, but more lows, and overcoming. And the world was overcome by, one Jewish person rejected by Jews, and we are to mission work. Let's get back to it. Mission work is why I get up in the morning, and I'm blessed to be retired. I retired at 42. I call it semi-retirement because I haven't completely pulled the reins over Legal and Confidential, my secular job, but I'm focusing. I mean, since COVID, I was been doing about 70-80% God's work. Again, serving the God, mission work a lot. Non-clergy, I say that so people don't think I'm some kind of like hallucinating angel or something. No, it's mission work. it's a common term. So my mission work, it started where I didn't even understand what I was doing. Okay, but for over 4 years, I was auditing COVID. While most of the world didn't know the difference between COVID and coronavirus, I would have to go way deeper in that. I probably said this before in other videos, COVID is a marketing term, okay? A branded marketing term for what? For coronavirus biological warfare, okay? Just like there's cyber warfare and there's traditional warfare that's more like bunkers and trench warfare, it's also called. Bio warfare is what's the trend in the last, few decades. So that's the difference. A big difference is when you're part of a marketing scheme. Nobody likes to be sold and nobody likes to be controlled, but that's kind of what the difference is. So I was doing the world's, my agency was the chosen third-party independent agency for that. And when I elected God's CEO, he gets control and he doesn't like to just pop up and say, "Hey, how are you doing in the morning, Jeff?" Now that I'm deaf, I get more vocal kind of descriptions, and it's clearer what he wants because I could blot out all the noise. But So the last kind of like, or up until about a year ago, my focus was auditing COVID. What does that mean? Getting to the bottom of follow the money. Anybody can say follow the money, anybody can say it. It's true. I think it comes from a movie, like a Deep Throat movie or something like that. Anyway, anybody can say follow the money, but to forensically do it, you gotta know the right legalities. You gotta have the right guide, which ahead is God. And for legalities, you have to kind of go to the practice groups that hit at the infancy, which are intellectual property, patents. They're kind of together. Okay, patent lawyers are kind of under the intellectual property umbrella. See, when you create something and invent something and throw it on the world, you lock up profits 100%. What makes you breaks you when it comes down, right? The example I give, if let's say Hiroshima and Nagasaki at the world level were bombed, but nobody took credit for it as a war, but and it was the first time it was ever used. And then you realized that Oppenheimer had the patent for for it. I know this is kind of like going back in history and changing things, but just theoretically, hypothetically, if that had turned that way in Oppenheimer, would you not look into Oppenheimer first if no one was claiming credit for this bomb? You would be like, hey, this Oppenheimer guy, he must at least know something, if not profiting. So that's one area. The other is banking and finance, which is so big in Charlotte that, my hands kind of sometimes, you ever hear the phrase, you touch kind of dirty money and you feel it? Yeah, that kind of happened when a deal went sideways with my favorite firm at the time. I got friends in that firm, and I haven't really talking to them, their families. I kind of have, but I get attacked. You get attacked for righteous work, just like Yeshua, Jesus, just like a lot of people who do righteous stuff. Gandhi put in jail, Mandela put in jail. I got a little stint, but these guys were backing off and they knew I'm a fellow, Hebrew, and, I recruited good partners to them before, so that's moving on, okay? That was what I was doing up until about a year ago for mission work. And in the legal world, they'll say pro bono, but that's usually a lawyer kind of helping somebody for free. And what mission work is also for free, but it's for God. So I call it pro bono mission work. That's what I was doing. It makes me very happy. For executing on everything, as far as the COVID audit. There's going to be people joining me and taking the burden off, especially, now that my health has taken a hit. But that leads me in to God showing me to be, that health would be my next one. And health kind of was connected to COVID. I mean, that is a health hazard, as it was sprung to be a natural zoonotic origin, but we all know that it changed to lab leak, and the lab leak could be, I opened the door and a bat flew out, or it could be like a journalistic leak, which is intentional. Now, that's why it's such a good operative word, leak. You don't know what it is. Is it intentional, or they never say? If you go to covid.gov, that is the current administration's update on going from zoonotic to lab leak. But they don't really implicate too many people. They do kind of throw one or two names. Fauci, which our audit goes way farther on, and actually, our next project goes farther on Fauci, and our project goes more on some of the earlier from 30 years back patents onward. We rank the worst, most just obvious dog stuff, but they're very, very hidden, and we focus on the world WIPO patents because we know this is going to be dealt with. A pandemic is global. It's not just U.S. And the USA is not the most liable. Our CDC is not clean. Okay, they come up number, I think number 5 on the audit. But check it out. It's got a dedicated website, whotostop.org. Yeah, so that was a bit, that took years to put together. A lot of research and a lot of resistance, mainly from one firm who hired another firm to just try ruining my life. But I'm here, and I hope to work things out. But God's timing, right? That's how it works. So the last year, let's talk about the last year. So I fight for my life, and I had a late onset turbo, rapidly progressing cancer. The word turbo cancer, put together as one word, has got the new taboo around it. But most people in the health freedom movement believe it, So it's just a matter of time before it's the, dictionary.com's word of the year. Will that be 2025, 2026? I don't know. I do have some prophetic gifts, but I would say in the next 3 years, it's going to be the word of the year. So God kind of will dictate where you need to go. You can't, as a servant of God, I've said this before, you can't just pick and choose your project. Like, no, that one seems too scary. Third world country, I'm not going to evangelize. No, you can't really do that. Especially if you have a strong connection between our Creator. You can't do that. I don't know if anybody personally who got kicked out of servitude, like God was like, out of here. But that's the kind of boss you don't want to cross, pun intended. So so God was like, telling me the world is trying to sweep it under the rug. The truth seekers that I believe, my people, the ones of truth, they know it's true. They know that a lot of people are getting what I got. And God gave me a version of it. The version he gave me, because I might not necessarily give you cancer, I'll give you answer. It's like, okay, I rhyme, I rap, that before. I don't do much of that. I do a tiny bit of that. We do got an album coming out called Turbo Cancer, and that's the name of the website, Turbo Cancer, but it's the .org, not the .com. We're not looking to commercialize any, even if it's a righteous drug. We do believe in ivermectin as a company, but we're not going to put any money. We're thinking about maybe making a donate or turning it into what will be the reparations money from a collective source of COVID perpetrators. We are thinking about, we know that our next project already, after developing Turbo Cancer, that's how prophecy works. You get a puzzle piece here, a puzzle piece there, and it's enough to give you hope, but God's not going to showcase you, okay, this is what's happening tomorrow, this is what happened tomorrow. You can start your day with a Moda Ani, which is Hebrew, is a Jewish prayer, which thanks God for restoring the soul, and you can get prophetic help. He can align your day. That can happen, but typically from, and differs per person, because if you look at the books like Ezekiel, he was chronological with his visions, okay, for the world in the Bible. But someone like Isaiah had scattered like pictures of what would happen. Like Isaiah, for example, I'm not saying this is the exact number, I'm just picking a number. Isaiah 3 could happen like way after Isaiah 52. That's a very famous chapter. Okay, that could happen. Okay, because of how God gives his information to the scribes who would write it down. God hasn't lost that prophetic ability. He doesn't have these declared second to king prophets called Nevi'im, but he gives prophecy. If you look at, I mean, my Jewish friends believe that, even the ones that don't read the Second Testament. But in the Second Testament, you look at 1 Corinthians chapter 12, I think 9 or 10 or 8 through 11, somewhere in there. It will talk about the gifts that he gives. Prophecy is one of the 9. Okay? So, anyways, back to that. I know through prophecy that there's going to be a son for me in the future, because I've seen that puzzle piece. Okay? I'm hoping it's with a certain guy. Now, I know this, that I'm going to be a major part, if not the leader, of the reparations for the COVID conspirators. I know that. There was a little Jewish guy, kind of makes me look tall, called Ben, I think, Ferenzi or something like that. I might be butchering it, sorry. Again, this is improv. That he was in charge of like the Nazi executions. He had a hard job. And I'm gonna need help, I know, but I'm gonna have a hard job. You know, I'm gonna have to like say this vaccine death is worth this versus this vaccine death is worth this. And because right now, Aaron Siri, another Jewish guy like Goldstein and me, you know, put in a tough position and all. Like, I called him, like, he's getting like $1,000 or so. At one point he was. I tried to get an update the other day. They were kind of rude to me, but that's fine. I don't, if a legal receptionist is gonna be rude and, you know, block, I know that from the Bible that legal professionals can try to be these gatekeepers. If you look at Luke 11:46 or Luke 11:52, it warns them, you know, stop being that, you know, because something could happen. I call it a bad deal, and I spell it DIEHL for someone's passing who broke a lot of rules, and his subordinates, attorneys, even partners broke rules. And, you know, you break biblical rules. They're usually worse than breaking secular rules when you look at the ones at the highest level, because there's a lot of things that don't come with a punishment, you know, that in the Constitution, that God still, if that's evil, that's evil. It doesn't, like, God doesn't change and be like, oh, you know, well, the LGBTQ sodomites, they're now the leaders, and we protect everything and we promote that. That doesn't happen with God. God's from Alpha to, he's not changing. He doesn't change his standard. You know, there's a central part of history that did have some revolutionary changes, but besides that, that's not like God's like changes how he feels about homosexuals just because we changed the word from sodomite to homosexual. God didn't change like, oh, these are now your new leaders, or they no. That is not how it works. Okay? That's me being serious, okay? I used to not have any opinion on that topic until I learned God's through learning his blueprint, okay? So then I had to have opinion. I was not going to have the opposite opinion. I used to be like, yeah, do marriage. There should be marriage. That'll, I thought for myself, I said, that'll stop, disease from going or AIDS from going, around, and it would promote a monogamous, relationship. But no, if God doesn't like something enough to cause a death penalty for it, and that's going to be in Leviticus, either 18:22 or 20:13, one of those they both talk about God's opinion. And then Jesus doubles down on that in Romans 1:26 through 1:29. See, with mission work 5 years ago, I couldn't quote patent numbers. I didn't know anything about patents, and my biblical knowledge from a 1 to a 10, it was a 1.5 to a 2, somewhere in there. Now God wanted me to be in the 99 percentile, not even 95. It was 99%. I heard it clearly. That was something I heard. Anyway, so back to the first question about how open-ended. I made this open-ended. I went kind of a little bit here and there. Sorry, but my mission work is my daily work now. It's daily. And it's consistent, and I never really feel like I could just, stop and do nothing, even if I'm on vacation, because I'm passionate about it. I like it. I know I'm helping. I know I'm not like a law firm taking a client like the Federal Reserve and having to justify genocide. That's a tough position to be. So what God will do sometimes is he'll give them a break. I'll put them on the right side, like the rumble side, against someone who used to say they don't be evil, but now they're, caught doing things that, So anyway, God kind of helps you out, gives you peace and war. We are, if you look at Deuteronomy 20, you need to be on the right side of the war, okay? So the war is proxy, okay? I'm going to end with a little off-topic, but on topic when it comes to my mission work, is to get the word out, right? So God loves Israel. And in the middle of the word Jerusalem is USA, right in the middle. It's 9 letters, so right in the middle. USA. God loves everyone. It's his people, but some people leave him, and some people don't know his blueprint, which is the Bible. And some people only subscribe to 2/3 of the Bible, heavy in my people, okay? But Hosea 4:6, which is in the First Testament, says, my people are killed for a lack of knowledge. And that's very important, because there's a lot of knowledge. God didn't stop, 2,000 years ago. The God that I believe in demands respect from more than the 2% Jewish people that exist. He is creator. That means he created Gentiles as well as pagans, okay? So there was one Jewish guy who made that 2% of reverence towards God over 50% and climbing, okay? And that happened to be a Jewish guy, but he gets hated on. That's when you evangelize somebody. That's not just a Christian word. When you bring somebody to God, that's noble, okay? So the whole COVID disinformation did not start in 2020 or 2019. Disinformation has been heavy since over 2,000 years ago, with what I consider the superhero of the latter part of the Bible, and 12 Jewish students, or Talmud, as I say. So that's the end. This one went 30 minutes. I hope you enjoyed it, and the one law firm I didn't really name, but knows who they are. I love you guys, man. I really do. I do.